I
What
meant to
happened?
go. I meant to go try live producer. I just
That's
said
okay.
just yeah.
It didn't
We'll
work.
see how it goes. That's
Yeah.
all I can say.
Okay. We'll go.
All right. Let's make sure. I want to make sure I have the everything up. Okay.
Working? Okay. Because I'm doing a watch party.
You got it.
Yeah,
Always
we'll
like
just
to
had to.
come on. Mic check. Mic check. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Joy?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Cool. So always like to kind of start off by let me just make sure people is live on my feed and people can hear me. If you are tuning in, if you can hear me, that would be so great. I'm really excited about today because we have the incomparable Joy Sinstrunk here. She's going to share information about these loans. I keep hearing like it's just so much information. And in all honesty, I've myself, even with all the education that I have been really overwhelmed by a couple of things. I've been overwhelmed by the fact that there's been, since the beginning of the year, a lot of legislation that has come out. I know when I was doing a look back, reflecting, I understand that Congress has passed already this year, just dealing with this coronavirus, three major pieces of legislation. The other thing that I've been overwhelmed about is now that I'm working remotely, having to learn all these various technology, this platform to kind of work remotely, right?
Right.
So, and then the other thing that's overwhelming is every time I turn on CNN, Good Morning America, the Today Show, the Fox 45 News, Channel 11 News, we're hearing all this stuff about, coronavirus and how we need to stay in and be healthy. And I'm going to be honest, my head has just been spinning. So, one of the things I wanted to do is to bring a colleague in that I trust, that I know can give information out that is really credible information to the people I know that are part of my tribe. So before we get started, before I give an introduction, I do want to let people know who I am. My name is Beverly Winstead. If you're just getting an introduction to me, I am a tax controversy attorney in the Washington, D.C. area. What is a tax controversy attorney, right? Uh, Essentially what we do is we help people that have disputes with the IRS. Whether you owe them large sums of money, we can work to try to get you a settlement. If you're being audited by the IRS, we work to defend you in an audit. If you have tax returns that you haven't filed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we work to get you compliant with the tax laws. And then the other major thing we do is if you feel like you've been treated unfairly by the IRS, we, can go into court and sue the IRS on your behalf. So that's a little bit about me and what I do primarily. Joy, I've been knowing you, I would say, about 5 or 6 years.
That is correct.
And I tell you, I have a great deal of respect for you. I don't know if you know that or not. But even from
No,
the
it's
first time I
definitely
met
mutual.
you,
No,
no, the first time I met you, I was like, yo, she is super smart. I got to make sure that she stays a part of my tribe. So I know that, like I said, it's been a lot of information that's coming out. And honestly, there are certain things that I've looked at, like in particular, I've looked at the CARES Act, dealing with the stimulus checks, because that's the majority of the questions that I'm getting. I'm also getting some information about, some questions about the SBA loans. And because it's so much information, I said, hey, why not bring Joy Sinstrunk in, who I know has studied this, has worked to put applications together for people, and would be able to be an incredible resource for, again, my tribe. So, with that being said, why don't you go ahead? Let me just ask you a little bit about what are these loans? Tell me what's going on.
there's so much. So there is the economic injury disaster loan, and the number one question I'm getting right now about it is, well, it's a disaster loan. I haven't really been impacted, and I'm like, yet. Put the word yet on that, because at this moment, your business may not have had to close. You may not have had a drop in sales yet, but when this is all said and done, we don't know if people are going to be able to pay all of the bills that you have, I have, that they have outstanding at that moment. And so it is best to go ahead and apply for the loans that make sense for you. So the disaster loan is to give you 6 months worth of operating expenses for your business to help keep you afloat during this turbulent time. They're offering it, you're not going to have to pay it back for at least a year. And it's a 30-year loan. That is unheard of. The only time you usually get a 30-year loan is for a mortgage. So that's how you know that we're not in trouble, but you know they're taking it seriously because they're giving you a 30-year loan just to keep your business afloat. And then when it's over, they don't want you to have to stress about how you're going to pay it back immediately. So they're giving you a 30-year loan.
Okay.
And anyone can qualify for that loan.
Okay. So it sounds like that's the economic disaster relief loan.
Yes.
And it's a 30-year loan. You got about 30 years to pay it back. And it sounds like as a business owner, even if I'm not impacted right now, like right now, I'm really busy still with taxes,
Right.
helping people file. But that doesn't mean in June or July, my business won't slow down, because I do know that IRS has relaxed enforcement activity. And, you know, you and I both practice in this world. A lot of times when it comes to enforcement activity, sometimes clients really don't take it seriously unless IRS is really knocking on their door trying to take their stuff. So it sounds like that I should even contemplate that my business may be slow in June and July, and I need to go ahead and apply for this type of loan.
Now, right. You should be applying now because the line is getting longer and longer. So when they first rolled it out, they got 8,000 applications in 48 hours. Since then, I'm sure they have gotten at least 2 to 10 million applications, which is why part of that loan process, you could check a box and say, I want to get a $10,000 advance. And they were supposed to send it to you in 3 days. Well, guess what? No one's gotten it in 3 days. I don't know anyone who's gotten it, who's applied in the last 30 days because they're so backed up. And I was actually going to ask you, I'm even seeing on the tax side that refunds for clients that I filed back in March haven't been delivered yet. I don't know if that's still your experience as well. So I think the IRS is just overwhelmed at this moment.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you and I shared this with you on a call Monday, that you know, IRS has its own problems. They have their own issues because they had to shut down their centers because some of their employees got COVID or got the coronavirus, right? So that's even kind of, they now are trying to regroup and figure out how they're going to adjust and still deliver the refunds or still continue their job. And that's why I say, even with the stimulus check, IRS actually, you know, I know it was a very ambitious goal, but they're trying to, every time I look at them, they state that they were going to release the first set of checks this week, actually yesterday.
Yes.
I don't think anybody has gotten any checks yet. So I'm, you know, it'll be interesting to see how they are actually going to, you know, try to figure out how they're going to continue to process refunds as well as deliver the stimulus checks.
I agree. So the IRS and then even the SBA, who is producing these loans. So this loan is directly through the SBA. They are completely underwater and overwhelmed. And I know that they mean well, and I know that they're doing their best. And I know that they're very hardworking people out there. However, they have definitely overpromised and underdelivered at this point. And so I think that is also adding to the confusion because people aren't getting their money yet. They feel like, I need to keep applying. There's nothing, once you apply and you get the confirmation number, there's nothing to do but sit and wait, because then at a later point, you're going to get an email requesting additional supporting documentation, because the initial application for this application is only 2 pages. They're going to be asking you for your financial statements, your tax returns. So if you don't have those things, now is a good time to start to gather them together so you can be ready.
Okay. Well, the good thing is I got in line about 3 weeks ago. so that's the good thing, right? Okay. So, all right. So if you are watching and you think you might apply for some of these loans, one of the things I want to encourage you now is probably go ahead and get a piece of paper out and a pen. You know, I've looked at this material, but you can see I still have a piece of paper and pen just so I can continue to get clarity in my mind as to what's going on, right? So, okay, you got the economic disaster relief loan. Any other kind of loans that are coming out?
Yes, right now you also have the Paycheck Protection Program loan. It's a partial grant and a partial loan. So this one's a little bit more complicated. One, in order to apply, you have to have employees. So if you just have 1099s or you're a single member and you've just been taking draws, this loan slash grant is not for you. You have to have W-2 employees. Once you have W-2 employees, you then need to figure out if your bank is taking applications. But to qualify for this, they're going to give you 2.5 times your monthly payroll. So basically two and a half months worth of payroll to cover all of the expenses, payroll, and then rent and utilities. This loan, however, is not going to be as large because 2.5 months of payroll is not really a big number unless you have 500 employees, which is the max. So mostly what we're going to see from this section is probably loans in the range of $20,000 to $50,000 because it's meant to keep you afloat and keep your employees employed for. They don't want you to send your employees, they don't want you to furlough them or lay them off. So it's to assist you and help you to keep people employed for at least 8 weeks so that they don't have to go on unemployment. And the part about this loan is as long as you keep those people employed, a portion of this loan will be forgivable. So they're going to forgive 8 weeks worth of the loan. They're giving you 2.5 weeks, 2.5 months, which is the equivalent of about 10 weeks worth of salary, but they're willing to forgive up to 8 weeks. I've seen a whole bunch of newscasts, even the major networks saying, oh, it's 100% forgivable. The likelihood of it being 100% forgivable is very, very slim. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't apply. It just means that it's not going to be 100% forgivable. It is part grant, part loan, as long as you keep the employees and you have them in place by June 30th. That's part one. Part two is this loan is going to be for 1%. They are going to suspend payments for 6 months, but the term of this loan is only 2 years. So basically you have to, so this is, in my opinion, you want to apply for it if you have employees for the grant portion, but this is not going to be the long-term solution for you or your business. This is it's a smaller loan amount and it's the shorter term makes it less attractive in my opinion.
Okay, here's my question, because when I was reading the legislation, it looks like this loan is for some employers, but not all. If if I recall correctly, it's for employers that have between, is it 5 to 500?
500 or less employees. Yeah.
500 less,
Yeah.
but if you have 50 or less employees, you can request an exemption, right? And then, no,
No,
it's,
not for this. So this one is for you have to have 1 to 500 employees. The
okay.
exemption is for the sick, if you want for
Oh,
sick.
the sick. Okay,
That's
for the
the
sick
sick
leave.
leave.
I got it. 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 Yeah, yeah. Just for the sick leave, because inside of it is something else. But people that have 500 or more employees, they,
They can request it, but what they're going to try to do is they feel like they're larger. They're working on a fourth package for the larger employees that may actually have some money in there for smaller businesses as well. If you have 500 or more, unfortunately, none of the loans that currently exist are for you.
yeah, because I can just envision industries that are definitely getting hard, that have
Mhm.
large employees, and that would be probably the airlines, like Southwest, Delta, those
Right.
kinds of people. So I think and I'm not for big business, but I do know that I never want the employee to be the person that suffers. So that was just interesting when I
No,
when
and
I
I
was
think
reading the legislation.
they're working on a separate bailout package for those industries. Airline, you saw for cruise line, even some car manufacturers. So we'll see. They're not going to leave them out because, quite honestly, that those are their friends and family as well. So they're going to take care of them. It's just that they haven't done it so far in any of these bills.
Okay. All right, so here's another question. So that's the second loan, the Paycheck Protection Loan. You got the Economic Disaster Loan. Any other loans that are coming out of this particular legislation, recent act?
No, but some of the states, like Maryland, has been wonderful about putting out state support for businesses. Maryland, DC, Pennsylvania, California, North Carolina. quite a few of the states are also, it is important that you not just look at the federal government, but your state as well, and even your county, because I'm based in Prince George's County, and I know we have business clients who are based in Montgomery County. Each of them have put out funding for their particular county to assist businesses. So there's a lot out there, and we have actually created a community. So if you need assistance, we'll put the link in the chat box. We have a community to assist you if you need additional assistance outside of the webinars that we're presenting today.
Please drop that link for me because I need assistance. Okay.
Okay, will do.
You know, I'm a firm believer of, I mean, sure, I can go through and read the legislation and, you know, kind of figure it out myself, but I'm a firm believer that, you know, with everything else I have going on, you know, I just don't have the patience to actually just kind of
Right.
do it myself. So why not go to someone that I think is an expert and that can, you know, help to streamline even some of the other stuff so that I can focus on what I can do really well. And that's really defend people that have problems with the IRS, you know.
Right.
So here's another question that I have, and it has to do with, let's say I have money in the bank right now.
Okay.
Should I, you know, have reserves? You know, I feel like one thing about me, I think you know a little bit about my story, and you know, 2011, and you know, I lost my brother and lost my business partner at that time, and it was really, and I actually lost, you know, I would say my office manager. So I really, in 2011, I was trying to figure out my next steps with my business, and you know, it really was an opportunity to kind of figure out what direction I wanted to move my business. And at that time, I was really financially devastated, right?
Mhm.
Because I had not prepared for everything that was happening to me. So one of the things I think I learned out of, you know, my ordeal and my crisis in 2011 is that one thing I will say is I insuranced up. I was like, I
Right.
would never, ever, you
Mhm.
know, want to feel the pressure of not being, you know, having some financial reserve, right?
Right.
And so, because when chaos is going to hit your life, it's a part of
Oh,
living, right? So, you know, I think one of the when challenges arise, if you do have, you know, an emergency fund, you're in a much better situation to navigate through the challenges that you have, right? So right now
right.
I can focus on my health and I'm not as concerned with focusing on the economic aspect, right?
Right.
So if you have reserves in your coffer in your bank account right now, should you still apply for this?
Yes, because we don't know what's the other on the other side, and you don't want to utilize as much as possible. You want to limit how much you have to dip into your reserve and use that for actual emergencies instead of, you know, using it now, trying to stay afloat when the government is clearly trying to assist. So it's better to get this money, to make the application, to get this money, and if necessary, when it's all said and done, you come out smelling like a rose on the other side. You can always turn this money in and just pay a little bit of interest, and you're done. So it's better. I've been saying consistently over the last couple of weeks, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, because no one gives you money when you actually need it most of the time. So since they're offering it now, it's best to take advantage of that and put it to the side and be conservative and be concerned. And of course, it's wonderful to have reserve. I'm glad that we two are in a similar position, but you still, you want to use other people's money when at all possible. It's the same thing even with the bills and stuff that you're paying. I'm not advocating for anyone not to pay their bills, but this might be the time to go into your bank. If you have, I want to mention, if you have prior SBA loans, they're supposed to be doing a 6 month suspension of your payments. So if someone hasn't reached out to you from the bank in regards to that, feel free to reach out to them. Not because you can't afford to pay, but because right now we need to be very conservative about our finances and what's coming next. Because again, even when this is all said and done, we have no idea what the other side looks like, because business as usual, our lives will never be what they were before. And I think the sooner we wrap our minds around that, the better off we are to really pivot and put our businesses and our lives in a position to be successful going forward.
Yeah. So speaking of banks, tell me about, you know, would you have any tips as to, let's say, should I deal with a bank that I may have a pre-existing relationship with, or should I be trying to find a new bank, maybe one that's a SBA approved lender, or and what should my conversations be with my banker or my bank? Sometimes I think as small businesses, and one of the things I learned early on from my mentor was that, Beverly, you don't need a bank, you need a banker. Because when
Mm-hmm.
things happen, you need to be able to call up your banker or email him or her, and she or he should be able to respond and help you through, navigate through whatever challenges that you have. I think a lot of times as small business owners, we like the convenience of being able to just snap a picture and
Mm-hmm.
deposit
Mm-hmm.
our checks into the bank account. But one of the things that I always try to do is actually physically go into the bank and sit down and speak to my banker. What do you do in a situation where you don't have that relationship with a banker, but you may have a relationship with your bank?
So in this case, so with the Paycheck Protection Program loan, you actually have to apply at a bank. But unfortunately, like you said, big banks aren't all that friendly. I happen to bank with Bank of America. They are not, even though I've had a long standing relationship with them, because I don't have a loan account with them as a business, they won't accept my loan application for a Paycheck Protection Program. So I literally have to go out and now find a new bank to support me during this effort. And so I would say, to your point, you do need to develop. It's okay to have a big bank, but you should also have a relationship with another bank where you do know the banker, where you do know people. And even though I know sometimes people are hesitant to do that because they feel like, oh, these people are always changing hands, people are moving. I've literally moved with bankers because when you have that relationship, it's not that they can do anything for you, but sometimes you may need to make a call. If something happened, you left your ID at home, you need someone to vouch for you. You need that person in the bank who can literally walk your loan application through and vouch for you to their committee, instead of just dealing with a big bank where all they're doing is pressing buttons. And if you don't meet certain criteria or you have a problem, they don't really care because there's literally no one to talk to throughout the process. You just get a yes or a no, and that's it. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, it's
So,
funny. Yeah, it's funny because I've been saying for a while, and this is what procrastination does,
mhm.
because I've been saying for a while I was going to move my relationship to a smaller bank, and, and I kept delaying and delaying. I'm still with the big banks. I'm with Bank of America. I'm with, PNC, only because at that time I had a really great banker and he always looked out for me. He transitioned on to doing something else, and we have mutual colleagues, and one colleague you and I both know that I had already said that I was going to move my banking relationship over there, and I procrastinated, and now I kind of feel like I don't have that person that I could just reach out to and just say, hey, this is a situation, I need help, how can you help me? Or even my clients. One of the things that I try to do is, and I did this early on, even before it became a pandemic, was reach out to all my business clients and say, hey, what is it that you need? How are you going to be able to navigate through this? How can I support you in what you're doing? Do you need financials? Do you need to talk to a banker? Do you need to
Right.
understand the legislation? Who's on your team? We have to. This is a team. It's, I play basketball. It takes teamwork to make the
It does
dream
take
work,
teamwork.
right?
No, I agree.
So yeah, so that's why I'm not in competition with you. So you're a CPA. I
No,
respect your craft. I know you respect my craft as an
of course.
attorney. So that's great. That's great to have.
But
I
since
just
you're talking, I do want to insert, I will say, since we do have the mutual friend, Chris, if you need to talk to a banker, you can always call Chris Mills at TD Bank, and they are taking they have actually opened their doors to anyone, whereas other banks have not. There's also Tony Barnett at West Banco. I'll put their contact information in the chat box for you if you need it, because there are quite a few
yes.
banks, big banks, who are not accepting new clients or applications for the
Yes, shout
Paycheck
out to
Protection
Christopher
Program.
Mills. He is one person I was thinking about. The other person I was thinking about was Stanley Arnold from Harbor
Mortgage
Bank.
Harbor, yes, definitely.
Yeah, so absolutely, I can give those, I feel like we personally can
You can
vouch
vouch
for
for
both of
them.
those.
Yes, we
Right,
can.
right, 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 right. Okay. What should I, as a business owner, what should I be doing to position myself to get on the other side of this? Because I think part of the anxiety and frustration, even though it really shouldn't be frustration with me, is how long is this going to last? Like, how long am I going to have to stay in the house and not go anywhere? Which, I should just not really focus on it. I really should be focusing on my health. But I think, I do want some type of certainty as to how long this is going to last. And even if I don't know how long it's going to last, how do I get on the other side of this moving forward?
So I think it's a couple of things. I think one of the things that I'm encouraging quite a few of our clients to do, because we work with government contractors and commercial clients, is call your clients who owe you money now to get them into payment arrangements now. Because when or if something happens to their funding source, our services are the last thing. We're at the bottom of the barrel. So if we can get them into some type of payment arrangement now, you have a better chance of getting paid and not being just, having performed all these services and not getting paid for it. The other thing we need to do is take a realistic look at your financials. And if you don't have a budget, create one to determine what is actually necessary. Because as business owners, sometimes we get caught chasing bright, shiny objects, or we're doing things and we've forgotten we're paying for stuff and not even realize we're paying for it. This is a good time to take a look at, especially while we're home. You have the numbers. Let's look at it and see what actually is necessary for me to run my business, and maybe what should I cut back on that is not necessary. Because the object to get on the other side is that we need to be lean and mean and be flexible. And you can't do that if you have a lot of fat in your budget and numbers. So I would say get lean, look at the numbers, and really cut out the things that aren't actually necessary to run your business.
Man, all great advice. I will say that. I just want to go turn to Facebook to see if anybody has any questions. Let's see. I see a couple of people. They're just all giving you praise. They're saying it's really great information. So that's a testament to, I would say you, but really me for bringing you on.
Well, no, I mean, I do. I need to say that I appreciate you. I respect you to the utmost. We are never in competition, because I consider you not just a colleague, but a friend. And I know that anytime I need something or our clients need something, I can always refer them to you, and you will get them out of a jam. I'm even going to give you a shout out. Beverly is winning cases, even I'm going to call this the famine. When the IRS is closed, she's still winning cases. And they're practically with a skeleton crew. So she is definitely the person you want to call when you have a tax issue.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I did win a pretty big case this morning when I got that fax. I was like, yes, So I will post a testimonial. It was a trust fund case. Taxpayer owed $450,000. We got IRS to concede the entire case. So he went from $450,000 liability to now a zero liability. I said Christmas, and I called him. I said, hey, Christmas came early for you. Even in this pandemic, Christmas came early for you. So
that is amazing.
Yeah, and I don't think sometimes, like, he should have never been assessed, but the problem is he was assessed, and if a case is not handled correctly, then IRS is going to stick to that assessment. And I really am so thankful that he finally, because he had gone to a couple of other people and it wasn't handled correctly. And by the time he came to me, I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can handle it. So good news. Great way to start off a Tuesday morning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the CARES Act before I let you go, because, we mentioned about the stimulus payment. I know under the CARES Act, there was there are different pots of money for different things, right? So you got different pots of money for businesses, you have different pots of money for individuals, and you have different pots of money for states. Right. Are you able to talk a little bit about, let's just talk about the NOL carryback provision that I know, since you're a CPA, I knew you perk up about that, right? Yeah, because only CPAs perk up when you talk about NOL.
Like, what is
NOL? But that's a huge provision that can help small businesses, right?
Yes.
Get immediate cash.
Immediate cash. So, and actually, this goes back to a case you and I talked about a while ago. I can go back 5 years now, which I'm so excited about because it supersedes the prior, because you before in the past, if you
First
had
of
an
all, what is a NOL? Because nobody, I mean, we talking our language. We talking Spanish right now to each other.
number,
So what
yeah.
is a NOL for people?
So it's a net operating loss. So on your tax return, some years you have a loss. And if you don't have enough basis or you haven't put enough money into the company, you would have to carry it forward because you've lost what they consider your basis. By if you have this loss, however, and you have some basis, let's say in 2014, where you had put money into the company in a prior year, we can actually take that loss back and get you a refund. So I had a client one year who paid $350,000. We can now take this loss back and give him his $350,000 back, which in this moment, I'm sure he is dancing on the ceiling because that makes a big difference to a small business. Right now, when you're kind of shaking the couch cushion looking for change, this is another way for us to help get you some money back.
Got it. Okay. Um, I guess for me, any other part of the CARES Act you want to talk about when it comes down to small businesses
Small
or?
business, we kind of alluded to it earlier, sick leave. If you do have employees, you will have, as part of the CARE Act, if they are sick, if you're closed, technically, if you have 51 employees or more, you have to give them sick leave of up to 2 weeks. And then we can take a tax credit to get your money back. That is a much longer term proposition, which is why businesses with 50 employees or less are supposed to be exempt from that, because that could be a huge burden and a huge amount of money on a small business. So,
Okay. Yeah, so they basically are able to claim that credit on their payroll tax returns on the 941s. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's where the reconciliation
That's
happens.
where the reconciliation happens. And so that's why they made it applicable to 51 businesses with 51 or more employees, because they figure you have a little bit more cash. A smaller business is not going to be able to pay people for 2 weeks and not get reimbursed for another 3 to 6 months. That's not going to happen. So they exempted employers with 50 or less employees from that provision.
Yeah, but 51 through 500.
51 and up, pretty much.
Okay. I still have this 500 just stuck in my mind. I think also because I remember reading that I think this is still under the Family First Act,
Right.
where if you have to be at home to homeschool a kid, your child, then you can get 2/3
You can
of
get 2 weeks. So people who are sick with COVID, if you're sick with COVID, if you have to take care of a family member, or if you have to homeschool your child because of COVID, that all falls under that same thing.
Right. And I think you get about, is it 12 weeks with that or 14 weeks?
You can go up to 12 weeks. So that's
up to 12 weeks, because you get 2 weeks, and then you can apply for 10 additional weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, see, this is why I said I needed Joy, because like I said, there's so many different provisions that are happening. And I did do a chart when I was actually really studying this because I wanted to be clear in my mind also. So, I like to only really kind of stay on Facebook Lives for, I would say probably, really normally I do about 15 minutes, but this information was so good that I wanted to make sure our tribe, got, the benefit of having you, the expert, as much as possible. What I want to be able to do now is actually, if you want to share your contact information or how can people reach you, so,
Sure.
they can follow up.
They can give us a call at 301-577-6444, or they can reach us at accounting@pgservicesinc.com. I'm also going to drop the link for the community in the chat box in the Facebook Live button. If you need additional help, if you still have been speaking Spanish or Greek to you and it's foreign and you need help, we're going to be on Thursday. We're going to actually be walking through the application process for those that still want to do it themselves. So if you sign up for our community, you will be able to get all the help you need. So we're looking forward to seeing you there.
So we do have one question from Andre Lee. Andre is in, I think, Roanoke, Virginia.
Okay.
And he's asking, should he even consider starting a business during this time?
He can start a business, but he's not going to qualify. He can't start a business to try to qualify for any of the funds. Not to say that was his intention, but if that was it, you're not going to qualify for any of the funds, because most of the provisions say that your business had to be an active business by February 15th, 2020.
Yep.
If you're just starting a new business to start a new business, it's always a good time to start a new business.
Yeah, that would have been my answer also. Awesome. So you got that, Andre? Okay. Yeah, I think Andre, let's say I know I think at one time he had a t-shirt business that was really active and a lot of people reached out to him for t-shirts and sneakers. So it'd be interesting to see what other businesses he has in mind. So I'm going to end by basically saying thank you, Joy,
No, thank you.
for joining us. And the other thing is, hey, even though the 15th, the filing deadline for tax returns has been extended to July 15th, I want to encourage everyone, if if you think you might qualify for a stimulus check, then and you have a filing requirement, definitely reach out to me at
Mhm.
301-306-1234. We're still helping people get compliant so that they can get their stimulus checks. If you want to talk to me about, your tax case, now's a great time when you don't have the pressure of IRS on you. And then
Mhm.
the other thing, I know we don't do a lot of uh, advertising of this, but I do want to let people know that we also do estate plans and advanced care directives and financial power of attorneys, which I know a lot of people actually are more thinking about more in this environment. So
Right.
definitely, if you have one of those needs, give us a call. I also will give you my website, www.irshelpattorneys.com. And hold on, I got one. Um, I'm sorry, I got one more. And yeah, and that's it. But the other thing is I want to give a shout out to Brent Simpson with Bold Vision Enterprises. I know he's normally he's working. Well, he actually helped us set this up,
Yeah.
and he's also helping for us to do a webinar. He's putting a webinar, Bold Vision Enterprises. So you should be on the lookout, I would say, for us to be on a webinar together next week. I think that's our target goal with Joy, and I want to say about 3 or 4 other experts. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in,
Mhm.
and catch you later.